Good morning, and I want to begin this session by asking you to confront a number that is not your cholesterol level or blood pressure, but is the most accurate predictor of your future quality of life. You are currently standing on a physiological precipice, even if you do not feel it yet. You might brush off the fact that climbing a flight of stairs leaves your legs burning a little sooner than it used to, or dismiss the reality that your thighs look thinner in the mirror. You might notice that getting out of a low car seat requires a groan and a heave, telling yourself that this is just a normal part of getting older. I am here today to tell you, with the full weight of medical science behind me, that while these symptoms are common, they are absolutely not normal. What you are experiencing is the early onset of a condition we call sarcopenia, which comes from the Greek words for poverty of the flesh and describes the progressive loss of skeletal muscle mass. Here is the terrifying reality that we do not discuss enough in general practice, because sarcopenia is not a benign side effect of aging, but a pathological state driving disability and early mortality. If you do nothing and continue to live exactly as you are today, you will lose approximately 3% to 5% of your muscle mass every decade after age 30. But here's the kicker, because once you hit age 60, that rate accelerates aggressively, leaving you with less than half of the motor units you possessed in your prime by the time you reach 80. Imagine trying to drive a car with half an engine, because that is exactly what you are asking your aging body to do without intervention. But this video is not an obituary for your strength, because the human body is miraculously plastic and retains the ability to adapt and strengthen even at age 90. I have seen patients who are bound to walkers regain the ability to navigate their gardens unaided, and 75-year-olds build more functional strength than they had in their 50s. We achieve this not by taking it easy or just going for a walk, but by understanding your physiology and applying specific clinical stimulus to reverse the decay. In this masterclass, I am going to give you the independence protocol, which consists of 3 specific exercises, derived from rehabilitation science, to target the exact mechanisms of sarcopenia. But before we get to the how, you must understand the why, because if you do not understand the enemy, you cannot win the war against muscle loss. To understand sarcopenia, you have to understand that your muscles are not just slabs of meat, but complex neurological organs categorized into type 1 and type 2 fibers. Type I fibers are your slow-twitch endurance units, which are efficient at using oxygen when you walk around the grocery store or go for a gentle stroll. Type 2 fibers are your fast-twitch power units responsible for explosive movement and reactive stability, such as when you trip over a rug and need to catch yourself. Here is the cruelty of aging, because sarcopenia is a predator that specifically hunts your type 2 fibers while leaving the endurance fibers relatively intact. As we age, we experience motor unit remodeling, where the neurons connecting to fast-twitch fibers die off, causing the abandoned muscle fiber to atrophy and turn into fat. This condition is called myosteatosis, which explains why an older person's leg might look the same size as a younger person's but is actually marbled with low-quality fat. This is why walking is not enough, because while it is excellent for your heart and mood, it is a type 1 activity that does not provide the stimulus needed to save type 2 fibers. To save those power fibers, you need resistance, and you need to challenge the muscle beyond its comfort zone. Otherwise, sarcopenia continues to progress. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that falls are the leading cause of injury-related death among adults aged 65 and older, occurring every second of every day. But falls rarely happen because of bad luck, as they usually happen because of a failure in the kinetic chain, where leg strength predicts mortality more than almost any other variable. When your legs feel weak, your brain subconsciously restricts your movement. It's causing you to stop taking the stairs and sit more, which leads to insulin resistance and disease. Sarcopenia is often the first domino in a cascade that leads to type 2 diabetes and heart disease, because the muscle acts as a metabolic sink for glucose. Furthermore, your bones are living tissue that reacts to stress, according to Wolff's law, meaning if you have weak muscles, you are placing very little load on your bones. The result of this inactivity is osteopenia and osteoporosis. So strengthening your legs is about preventing hip fractures that carry a high mortality rate. You have likely heard the phrase, use it or lose it. But the correct biological principle is specific adaptation to imposed demands. Your body is an efficiency machine that will shed any muscle it thinks it doesn't need. so walking slowly only signals the body to keep the minimum muscle required. Reverse. Sarcopenia, we must impose a new demand and signal to the central nervous system that high force output is required for survival. Many seniors make the mistake of joining a gym and jumping onto complex machines or jogging, which destroys their knees because they lack the stability to absorb impact. The solution is controlled tension using exercises that are closed kinetic chain, meaning the foot is fixed to the floor to mimic real-life patterns and protect the joints. We need exercises that are polyarticular to engage multiple joints simultaneously and progressively overloadable so we can make them harder as you adapt. The protocol corresponds to the 3 primary failure points in the aging lower body, which are the ankle complex, the posterior chain, and unilateral stability. Let's begin at the ground floor with the ankle and the calf, specifically focusing on the triceps surae complex containing the gastrocnemius and the soleus. The gastrocnemius crosses the knee joint and is responsible for explosive power, while the soleus lies underneath and is the unsung hero of standing upright. As we age, our proprioception diminishes and we lose track of where our feet are in space, which combined with weak calves leads to toe drag and tripping. Furthermore, the calf muscles act as the peripheral heart by squeezing veins to push blood upward against gravity, reducing swelling and the risk of clots. So the first exercise in our protocol is designed to bulletproof your ankles while enhancing venous return and restoring your proprioception. We establish that the calf muscles are your first line of defense against falling because they provide the reactive timing needed to push you back upright when you stumble. If this reflex arc is slow due to atrophy, you will fall face forward, which is the mechanism behind many wrist fractures in seniors. Therefore, our first exercise, called the standing heel raise, is not about building bulky calves, but about sharpening this neural connection and stimulating the deep venous system. Find a counter or sturdy chair back and place your fingertips lightly on the surface for sensory input, ensuring you do not grip it too hard. Stand with feet hip-width apart to align the joints and focus your mental energy on driving pressure through the ball of your big toe to avoid rolling your ankles. Slowly peel your heels off the ground as high as possible and pause at the top for 2 full seconds to eliminate momentum and force muscle recruitment. This isometric pause is crucial because it forces the muscle fibers to sustain the load against gravity while squeezing the deep veins to flush out stagnant blood. Lower yourself slowly on a count of 3, because the lowering phase is where we strengthen the tendon and lengthen the muscle fibers under tension. We aim for 3 sets of 15 to 20 repetitions, because the calf is an endurance muscle that requires higher volume to respond to training. You should feel a warmth or burn in the belly of the calf muscle, but if you feel sharp pain in the Achilles tendon, you should reduce the range of motion immediately. Now we graduate to the most critical movement in human mechanics, called the squat, which I refer to in my clinic as the independence indicator. I often hear patients say they cannot squat because of bad knees. But if you sit on a toilet or a chair to eat dinner, you are already squatting. We are going to repattern this movement because the ability to rise from a chair without hands correlates with walking speed and lower fall risk. We are targeting the quadriceps and gluteus maximus, which are the largest glycogen storage depots in your body, helping to manage blood sugar and prevent diabetes. This movement triggers a systemic hormonal response by recruiting so much muscle mass, signaling the pituitary gland to release growth factors for tissue repair. The number one reason seniors hurt their knees squatting is that they start by bending their knees forward, which increases the shear force on the kneecap. We need to shift the load from the knee joint to the hip joint using a technique we call the hip hinge to protect your joints. Place a sturdy chair behind you for safety and stand with feet slightly wider than shoulder width, turning your toes out to accommodate the hip socket. Imagine you are holding a bag of groceries and need to close a car door with your butt, initiating the movement by pushing your hips rearward. Slowly lower your hips toward the chair on a count of 3, fighting gravity to create the micro tears that stimulate bone density growth. For beginners, you can sit fully on the chair to reset. Or for intermediate levels, you can lightly touch the chair like a butterfly landing on a leaf. When you ascend, you must shift your mental focus to your heels and drive them into the floor as if pushing the earth away. As you stand up, exhale sharply to brace your core and squeeze your glutes at the top, ensuring you stand fully tall with a proud chest. Watch out for the dynamic valgus where your knees cave inward, and intentionally push your knees outward against an imaginary band to prevent injury. We are aiming for 3 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions with a full minute of rest between sets to ensure every repetition is high quality. Every time you perform this movement correctly, you are strengthening the vastus medialis muscle, which stabilizes the kneecap and depositing money into your physiological bank account. Now, we have stabilized the ankles and powered up the hips. But we must address the missing link, because we live in a 3-dimensional world of curbs and stairs. Most falls happen when we are on one leg during the gait cycle, so we need the final piece of the independence protocol to bulletproof your balance. We need to target the gluteus medius on the side of your hip, because this muscle is the primary stabilizer of the pelvis when you walk. If this muscle is weak, your pelvis drops and your balance evaporates. So the step-up exercise is essential because it forces the weak leg to work independently. You do not need a high box to be effective, so start with a standard stair height of roughly 7 inches or a sturdy aerobic step platform. Safety is critical, so you must perform this movement next to a wall or sturdy handrail to have a tactile cue for balance. Place your entire foot on the step, ensuring the heel is supported, because putting only the toes on the edge is a recipe for an Achilles injury. Lean your weight forward onto the front leg to preload the glutes, treating your body as a slanted line from your heel to your head. Do not push off with the bottom foot using momentum, but instead focus on pulling yourself up with the top leg by driving the heel down. The bottom leg should be dead weight as you lift your body, then bring the second foot up to stand tall before controlling the descent. Aim for 8 to 12 repetitions per leg to correct asymmetry, and do not be surprised if you find that one leg is significantly harder than the other. Now that we have the tools, we need the dosage, so I want you to view this routine not as a workout but as a vital medical intervention. I recommend performing this routine 3 days per week because muscle tissue grows while you are sleeping and recovering, not while you are training. Your 15-minute session should flow from a gentle warm-up to heel raises, then the heavy squats, and finally the stability-focused step-ups. Your body adapts to stress, so you must eventually increase the challenge, but do not just add more reps, as that only builds cardio, not strength. Instead, you should slow down the movement to increase time under tension, or safely add a small load like a backpack with books. You must learn to distinguish good pain, like muscle fatigue, and stiffness from bad pain, like sharp electrical sensations located inside the joint. We must address your mindset because sarcopenia steals your self-efficacy before it steals your muscle, whispering that you are too old to move. When you buy into that narrative, your brain downregulates your physical capacity, so I'm asking you to rebel against that belief today. Every squat is a vote for the person you want to be, and every step up reclaims a piece of territory that aging tried to steal. This protocol is about more than muscle fibers, because it is about the dignity of using the restroom alone and the freedom to play with grandchildren. Do not wait for Monday or the perfect time, because while the best time to start was 20 years ago, the second best time is today. If you are ready to commit to saving your independence, go to the comments section right now and type "strong legs, strong life." Please click the like button to help this video reach other seniors who are afraid to move. And subscribe so you do not miss our next session on posture.